there was some, nefarious activities that took place at a local CIA unit that he drilled at a few times. I mean, basically, when he was in the hotel room and the government was paying the bill, he ordered porn. Which is a typical grunt thing. I don't see a problem with it. I didn't even bat an eyebrow when it came up in the morning meeting with Dina. She's like, yeah, Calabrese ordered porn. I'm just like, so? Hello everybody, Terrence Popp here with another episode. Live from the Lair! Okay, let's see. I got a lot of stories from the 414. Okay, first one. There was a guy who was transferred with the 414 on their books that came from New York. There was quite a few actually, but I only had 3 or 4 in my company. And they were basically, discharged medically because a lot of them had medical issues and shit when they came back. But there was one guy, his name was Calabrese. I looked at his record. Guy was airborne, air assault, hard charging infantry. Then he went on a deployment with the CA and he got fucked over by some Navy officers and it just fucking went south from there. So he comes back from Iraq and fucking just, goes AWOL, says fuck it. Now, I was told by Lieutenant Colonel Dina to keep giving this guy use when he didn't show up for fucking drill, despite the fact that he was 571 miles away, which you can't fucking do, especially when he didn't, sign a 500-mile transfer letter, so, and it wasn't his fault the unit was moved. But for whatever reason, Dina wanted to fuck this guy 3 ways to Sunday because he was making her look bad on her books. And she'd actually, discharged 2 or 3 other soldiers. They weren't in my company, basically the same way. And there's nothing I could do about it. I didn't really know what was going on. But she started doing the same thing to Calabrese. Now, she worked up a fit for duty for Mr. Calabrese. Shocker, since she sent pretty much everyone on the fit for duty. And we cut him orders. And if he didn't make it to that fit for duty, that was pretty much it. So I reach out, using my my special forces fucking mind powers and, other talents and spooky shit I do, and got a hold of his phone number, and I called him at home, and I told him a deal. And he was like, fuck this, I don't care, I got it. He was burned out. And I said, listen, I understand. You're at bullshit saturation. And, right now you don't care. I got it. I totally understand it. But 10 years from now, when your kids ask about your service, are you going to look them in the face and tell them you got a dishonorable discharge? Because that's what's coming down the pipe for you, bro. So there was a hesitation on the phone, and he basically said, I'll fucking be there. I'm like, okay. So, he contacts, Colonel Dina and basically says he's going to fucking go down to Bragg and, we got to cut him a ticket and all that other fucking horse shit. And I go down there and I have to go with this other fucking mook. I'm not going to say his last name, but part of his last name was Dow. And he was on the books to go on deployment to Iraq. And he was at the MOB site and he pinched a nerve in his neck and needed to get looked at by a doctor. So he was getting flown to Bragg for another fit for duty. And I had to basically escort 2 dudes on a fit for duty. And, old Dow is shameful. I could smell it on him. He just fucking didn't want to deploy. He was being a straight up fucking coward. I'm just going to say it. I don't like saying those words, but if you fucking, if you deserve it, I don't lie. I'm just going to tell it to you how it is. And terrible fucking attitude Mr. Dow had, and it was just fucking terrible. So, Calabrese, we pick him up at the airport, drive him back to the hotel room, and, I basically had Calabrese living in my room because he was, kind of a severe head case at the time, which I completely understand. And, I escort him to all his appointments, and I got along with Calabrese just fine, because, he's a grunt, paratrooper, air assault guy, pretty much all cut from the same cloth. So I got along with him really well, he's a good dude. He's just a little wigged out at the time, which I fully understand. And Calabrese hated Dow as soon as Dow opened his mouth. And it got to the point where, about 2 days in, Calabrese basically looks at me and goes, "Sergeant Popp, if I get in the car with Dow and we're in the car at the same time, I'm gonna fucking beat his fucking ass." I'm like, okay. Now, Calabrese's, stocky guy, maybe, 210, 5'10-ish. Had really good PT scores, and I fully knew that he would mop the floor with Dow badly. So I couldn't let that go down on my watch. So now I had to drive 2 soldiers at 2 different times with 1 fucking car. So I had to juggle that shit around. That really fucking sucked. And, I remember I had to loan him some money, which I basically didn't loan it to him. I just gave him some money. And then I remember I drove him to the airport and, did the bye-bye. And, and he actually came down to the fit for duty and didn't have a fucking ID card. So I had to fucking call back to the unit and get his orders and some other bullshit and the copy of the UMR with him on it and his social security number, and take him to the ID card facility and get him a new ID card, which was a fucking pain in the dick. Especially when I had to drop him off and then pick up Dow and drive him to his fucking appointments and drop him off and then come back. It fucking sucked. But nobody got throttled, and, old Calabrese, basically made us fit for duty. And we're there, I think 5 days, Monday through Friday. So he got paid. He was off of the non-participant list. And, he was on his way. I come back to Southfield and basically tell Dina the fucking deal. And she didn't fucking care. She just wanted to throw this motherfucker out. That was it. And, at that point, I realized that he was going to get royally fucked, and he needed to have an NCO running some top cover for him. So I contacted Staff Sergeant Sportello, who has a 2nd degree in administrative violence. He's better than I am. And I said, "Hey, you got a hard charger in your backyard. He's going to get put out of the Army probably with a less than honorable or dishonorable discharge. It's going to fuck him hard. The colonel I have here has a hard-on for this guy, just wants to fuck him 3 ways to Sunday, and there's nothing I can do. I can't talk her out of it, So Sportello's like, "Yeah, roger that, Pop, I got it." So I give him his number and email, and Sportello, takes it over. And the kung fu, judo, chop, hurling, and wrestling that he did against K-Pac was legendary. Legendary. He basically acted like Calabrese's attorney, but it's not law, it's Army regulations, so he could do that since he was still in the system. I believe he was on his way getting medically discharged as well. But he goes in there and he sits down with the JAG and goes through all the paperwork, and the JAG think they have, this is a rock solid case. This guy is getting slammed with dishonorable, man, fuck him. Plus, there was some nefarious activities that took place at a local CIA unit that he drilled at a few times. Basically, when he was in the hotel room and the government was paying the bill, he ordered porn. Which is a typical grunt thing. I don't see a problem with it. I didn't even bat an eyebrow it came up in the morning meeting with Dina. She's like, yeah, Calabrese ordered porn. I'm just like, so? I don't care. Why do you care? He's a dude. That's what they do. They like to watch porn. I watch porn. Everybody watch. I'm like, hey, you watch porn? Hey, you watch porn? Hey. Like the female NCO. Hey, I know you watch porn. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, say, there you go. She didn't care. She just wanted him fucking flambasted. So Sportello sits down with this JAG officer and basically just fucking plays mumbly peg all over his ass. And it just got to the point where they're like, okay, there's no way we're gonna, put this guy out of the service because he didn't sign the over 50-mile waiver. He was transferred against his knowledge, and that's just a shitty fucking thing to do. And not only did that happen, but Sportello, I believe, filed a couple of complaints about some of the other soldiers who had been fucking put out of the service a little on the dirty side. And I believe that came back to bite old Dina in the ass down the road. I'm not really sure on what went down because I didn't file a complaint and I didn't have a lot of the inside scoop on that one. But turns out, like 4 months later, Calabrese medically retires out of the reserves. He's getting a pension, and he basically writes a letter to everyone in the fucking K-pop, like, I'm fucking retired, y'all can fuck off, you tried to throw me out of the army, blah, blah. And I basically stood up and I fucking golf clapped that shit, because that was fucking hilarious. And Calabrese, if you see this, dude, love you, man. You're a good motherfucker. You did your deal, he was in Iraq for the original push, and then I believe he did 2 more deployments after that, and then he just reached deployment saturation, and it fucking happens. Some guys just can take stuff and just keep coming back, kind of like me, and some guys can't. And there's no shame in that. He did his fucking deal, he stood his watch. All right, now, Captain D had been transferred over to an engineer unit in South Carolina that was deploying to Afghanistan. Now, Captain D was First Lieutenant D, who basically signed for all of the shit that was sent from New York to fucking Detroit. And he knew he was going to get fucked. And Dina was fucking going to make him responsible for like $150,000 worth of lost fucking shit, which, he all he did was sign for it, and it just was never packed. We don't ever know what fucking happened to it. Well, I do. It was probably pinched by a Sergeant First Class Sweeney, who is now dead, because that guy was a sticky finger, supply, shuffling, dude. I'm just gonna say that, he karma caught up with him, and he passed away, and it was a long, slow, grueling death. But it is what it is. I was on, I went to his funeral, and I was on the funeral detail for the guy. And I'll talk more about him at another date. All right, so I remembered that I had reported to the facility manager across the parking lot that a door in the Butler building was unsecured. Basically, somebody had kicked the door open and there was no locking mechanism, and the metal part on the frame had been ripped out. So you could open the side door whenever you fucking wanted. And there wasn't really, the caging wasn't proper. There was gaps and holes and stuff like that. And I reported that like 2 months prior to that, but I didn't say anything to Dina about it because I knew that if I did, she would have it fixed, and then old Captain D would be out 150 G's. So, the KPOC sends down an officer, I don't remember his name, comes down, and he's going through the records, and he interviews the people that were in the receiving, the original, NCOs and shit that were at the unit in the first 6 months. He gets to me, and I'm like, hey, I don't even know why you're here, because this is stupid. If you check with the facility manager, across the parking lot. I reported to him like 2 months ago that the side door in the Butler building where all of this equipment was stored is been kicked open and it's been unsecured, and they just haven't fixed it yet. So it was unsecured. How could you hold this guy responsible for this equipment that was stored in the building, and he hasn't even been here for like 4 months? Okay, and this is just bullshit. You know, I think somebody needs to file a fucking complaint or what. And the major's like, oh, just take it easy. It's unsecured? Are you sure? And I'm like, listen, you just go talk to the colonel across the parking lot, check the log. I logged it in and I told him to his face. He's like, I'll go do that right now. So he gets up. You know, I go to lunch because I already know how it's going to go down, you know. And, you know, old Captain D is going to get a big fat pass on this because he didn't fucking do anything wrong other than get fucked by K-Pop and didn't deserve to get fucking, you know, hit for 150 G's. So the major comes back after lunch and he goes, yeah, I talked to the colonel and you're absolutely right, Sergeant Pop. That door is completely unsecured and this is bullshit. And I remember he just pulls out his pen, he starts drawing lines through all kinds of shit, and they went from like $150,000 to like $3,200, which in all actuality, most officers, when they leave command, get pinched for some shit that's lost. That's just the way it is. So I call old Captain D and I'm like, hey, sir, I handled it on this end, so you just, you're all good. He's like, thanks, Sergeant Pop. Holy shit, that's fucking crazy. That bitch fucking really fucking stuck it to me. God damn. And I'm like, I know. But, you know, that was Dina's MO. She ripped everyone down around her to make herself look good because she was an incompetent, narcissistic, fucking vindictive cunt. So, you know, one of the big things you realize when you serve as a grunt is you can never have enough magazines. You just can't. And whenever you need them or when you deploy, they never give you enough. It's crazy. So the Army was getting a bunch of these new plastic, you know, M16 magazines, and you know, the engineer unit had basically got like 1,800 of these plastic magazines. And I got word that they were actually laying out the magazines on the drill floor, and they were going to run them over with the tractor to deadline them all, and then throw them away. And I remember I went and talked to the sergeant. I'm like, hey, you know, why are you destroying these perfectly good magazines? And he's just like, oh, well, I'm like, did somebody tell you to destroy it? He goes, oh, no, I just told me to get rid of them. Okay. Well, here we go. I'll sign them over to the 414 and put them in our arms room cage. And that way, you don't have to destroy them. And they'll still get used for years to come because you and I both know that those magazines are perfectly fine. They're just aluminum instead of plastic. And the whole thing is stupid anyway. He's like, oh, yeah. So he has his cronies pick them up. They throw them in a couple boxes. And I drag the boxes across the arms room, slide them into one of the cages, and lock the fucking door. So we basically got, I think it was 3,200 30-round magazines. It's fucking awesome. And I picked up probably 200 Beretta 9mm magazines too. And I threw those back in there. And so I believe the 414 was sitting pretty on magazines unless some asshole destroyed them all, which is fucking stupid. But, you know, I'm out of the system, so I really can't do anything about it. All right, that was the magazine deal. All right, now we're at 20 minutes. One more story. All right. So as you know, the Army does piss tests. You know, pretty much every month there's a random piss test. And it was like 4 or 5 months in a row. Mysteriously, my name was called for a piss test. So I went and talked to the female NCO who was running the piss test, and she's basically, no, your name only came up, I think, one time, and then Dina wrote you in for the rest of the piss tests. So I was getting targeted for like a piss test for like 5 months in a row. And people were like looking me in the face and just lying to me and saying, oh yeah, you're randomly picked. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I remember I put that in the IG complaints that I used to fucking fire under her water line, a few months down the road. But, I was a training NCO, and I remember I got this new staff sergeant right out of the IRR, wanted to come back. And he came back on a piss test day. And he walks in the building, and I made sure I was at, near the door when he came in. And I said, hey, this is what's going on. I'm not saying that you're going to piss hot. I'm not making any assumptions. But your name is on the piss test roster. This is your first day back. If you have any fucking questionable shit going on, just do a 180, go to your car, and come back next month. He looks at me, he's like, well, roger that, Sergeant. He turns around, leaves, gets in his car and drives. And nobody asked me what happened to him. He just basically got a U, which is unsatisfactory performance, which is not a big deal. You're allowed, I think, 6 of them in a year. It was a muted 2, so he got like two U's, which is nothing. And he made him up down the road. And he came back for the next drill like 20 days later. Never had a problem with him after that. Everything was fine. But sometimes I just had a gut feeling that some bad shit was coming down the pipe for that guy. He just wanted to come back in and do his deal. And, maybe he, had fucked up a little bit. And he thought, oh, yeah, they're not going to piss test me for a couple months because, I'm new. So it is what it is. All right, gentlemen, it's 20 some odd minutes. You guys take it easy.